I'll think we do. First item of business is approval of the minutes from June 17th Port Authority meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Laura?
I'll second.
Scott? Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor, we don't do a roll call on these, do we? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody's opposed. Thank you.
I abstained because I wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, that's right, you're a new boy. New business, RFQ for the snow and lawn services to the CBHH on 1801 Elcott Avenue West. Miss Clara?
Good evening, Port Authority / City Council members. Thank you for being here tonight. As you may or may not be aware, the Port Authority owns the Community Behavioral Health Hospital, which is out on Elcott by the roundabout. It's a pretty state-of-the-art facility. We're one of the, I think, favorite ones in the state of Minnesota. They do a really great job out there. But as the owners of the building, it is our role to hire the company that comes and does snow removal in the winter, and they have pretty specific parameters for what times and how they're doing the snow removal to ensure that there's safety for both the staff and the patients, and then yard work in the summer. And so every few years, we'll go out for an RFQ just to make sure that we're getting the best pricing, the best company for the work that we're requesting. Last time we went out for an RFQ was about 2020. So now that we're going to be going into the 2025 budget session, we figured it would be a good time to just put out another RFQ. We have been working with Atlas Outdoor Services out there. They've been great to work with. They were the only ones to respond to the RFQ the last time around. So we're just hoping that you agree tonight for staff to go ahead and do a call to see what we can get in now and if there are any changes to be made for 2025.
Any questions for Clara?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
If I remember right, Atlas is currently the contract holder for the city mowing for like delinquent mowed lawns and stuff. Is that correct? I thought I
Yep.
recognized the name, so yeah, that's the same company. Thank you.
No other questions? Make a motion to approve this? Do I want to
I'll offer that.
I'll second.
get that, Lynn? Any more discussion? Lynn? Oh, just all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Carried. Second is Mr. Request for right of refusal from SCR Solutions. First right of refusal from the SCR Solutions. And go ahead, Clara.
Yes, so the Fergus Falls Port Authority owns land that is directly behind SCR Solutions, who just finished an expansion on site, which is very exciting. But the land that is behind them is in a permanent easement with the DNR as I don't know if wetland is the right word, but you're not allowed to build on it. It's supposed to just stay exactly as it is. And this easement was placed there. I think some of the documents were signed in the early 2000s. It was due to trades and purchases of land that were done elsewhere in town for industrial growth, that it's supposed to make up for the fact that there were other lands that were used. Well, now we are seeing that maybe we would like some industrial growth in that specific area behind SCR Solutions. So the Port Authority has been working with the DNR for the last year or so on trying to remove this easement, which is a long process, but we are making good progress. But as part of the process, SCR Solutions has submitted a letter to the Port Authority stating their interest in having a right of first refusal for when that property does become available for purchase. So you have a letter in your packet, and we do have Mr. Mark Sickick here if you have any questions. But that's basically it. It's for the port to decide if you are interested in entering into a right of first refusal when the Port Authority property behind SCR Solutions becomes available for purchase.
Any question? Oh, Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, and your action today, if you wish to do this, would be to pass a motion instructing me to draft a proposed agreement for your review at a later date.
So I think we'll ask for the motion, then we'll discuss it after the motion's on the floor.
I'll offer that.
Tom,
Second?
Kwame?
And I have a question.
Sure.
So the right of refusal, is that linked to the property or the organization, the business entity? So just mostly out of curiosity, say, the business moves. I mean, what happens to that right of refusal?
Well, I mean, it attaches to the land.
Okay.
It's a right that could follow SCRs if they want to. I mean, we could probably have it attached to the land. That may be something that if we do this, that we talk that out a little bit as to what makes the most sense. I mean, it could be that if this is only a right that's just exclusive to Mark and his company, and that's that. We leave it as that. And, as long as you stay in your spot, which I assume you plan on doing, and maybe this is, probably just something Mark and I can take up. If this is what you want me to draft, we can have a discussion on that, what makes the most sense.
Yeah, I'm not real concerned about it. As the question popped into my mind is if, could Mark technically move his building but still have the first right to, right of refusal on that land? And that's, not a concern. I just, just curious.
What's your preference? I mean, that's,
In this circumstance, I really don't have one. Yeah.
sure. Well, I'll give it some thought. We'll talk it out.
Whatever you think is gonna be best for the city.
Any more questions for anybody? If so, I'll call for the vote. No? Oh, I thought, no, they did already. Didn't you make?
Motion in a second, but just call for the motion.
Yeah, I'll call for the motion, I'm sorry. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. Carried. Now we'll go to the proposed budget. I don't know, Claire, if you want to go up, or Bill, okay.
Got it.
Good evening. Before you, I believe, Lynn, you laid it on their desks, right? A Port Authority budget. Now, this will come through the city budget process as well. So we're going to cover it a little bit here, and we'll cover it more when we come back with the entire city budget as well. But the Fergus Falls Port Authority is a separate legal governmental entity, and within statute, the Port Authority can request the city council to levy a tax. And currently, for 2024, that amount is $72,000. So put that in a frame of reference. We came to the Port Authority last year. The port requested that of the city, went to the City Tax Levy Committee, got it included there. The City Tax Levy Committee is well at work through the budget process. So this is this Port Authority budget has been flowing through that process as well, as all of you are members of the City Council. But before you tonight, we'll run through what we have put together for a proposed budget. Clara has worked on this as the director and put in this budget request. And I've worked on it as well with her. And so we'll just run down a little bit, give you some of the highlights, just a couple main changes in there. But let's start with the expense section first. So economic development and assistance, it would be under account numbers 46,500. We have a total budget request of $100,223. That is slightly down from a budget in 2024 of $105,492. This is the general operation area of the Port Authority. And within here, we have 20% of Clara's time budgeted here and 42.5% of Jill's time working on this. The reason this is down a little bit is because I look at the history of where Jill is working and charging her time, because as she works on projects and different loan funds, she charges her time out appropriately. So I saw that going down a little bit to the Port Authority, up a little bit in the general fund of the city. So I dropped that down a bit here. So that's the driving factor of why that is down. So we have, the salaries, the benefits that go along with that. We have some supplies in here. A little bit of legal fees is a new request in there. Didn't have that in the budget before for $1,000. You know, as things come up for the port, I'm working on things. Some professional services in there for $5,000. Now, we didn't spend as much last year in 2023. There was about $1,400 spent. The year before that, it was like $12,000. So it's as projects ebb and flow. It was higher back then when we did some work on the Norgren property. That's why that was higher then. So it's in there at 5 right now, kind of the middle ground. Again, anything we do, and you'll hear this again when we come in September with the entire city budget, you can always go down when you go towards December, but you can't go above what you do in September. We pay the property taxes on the land that the Port Authority owns, budgeting $10,000 there. We're at about $9,900 this year, so you know, maybe I'm even a little shy on that with 10,000, but that's what I put in that budget. The next section down is the CBHH facility. Clara just talked about that with those services we're looking at for the maintenance. And this total area is $218,598. That is fully funded by the state of Minnesota. So we have a lease agreement with the state. They make those lease payments to the Port Authority. The port then operates that CBHH facility. We have monitoring services out there. As far as like building related operational monitoring. Capital dollars that go in here, I'll explain that a little bit more. You will see, now I'm going to jump around a little bit up in the revenue section. So we have rent in the revenue section, total rent coming into the Port Authority of $242,005. Of that, you'll see in the notes, the CBHH is that $218,598. So I've matched the revenue with the expenses in there. We don't expect to spend all of that during 25, but I put it in the budget to balance it out. The balance of that kind of goes into their building repairs and maintenance funds, $90,500. I don't think we'll spend all that, but the intention is always that carries forward, that actually gets deposited in a segregated savings account on behalf of the state of Minnesota. Because they want, you know, if there's any interest earnings there, that is credited directly to that account. And so that's a holding fund for future capital. Again, kind of regulated by the state of Minnesota through our agreement with them. It's all their money going in. We're being the stewards of that and the operation of that. So that's why I want to kind of talk expenses there first and show how that ties to the rent revenue coming in. The other rent coming in is on the farmland that we rent out. And that is $23,407 is what we have in for an estimate for 25 on that. Okay, then the other revenues in the Port Authority is the tax levy we talked about. So proposing that going from $72,000 up to $120,000. That's a $48,000 increase in that levy. That ties to the expenses on the second page, a new expense area this year under economic development for professional services of $48,000. That relates to Greater Fergus Falls, was brought up at your last Port Authority meeting, and Greater Fergus Falls requesting additional funding of $48,000. You'll see that in the minutes that were in the packet from the last meeting as well. So that's in here, that's for your discussion. I know you also have a working group. Andrew, maybe you can even touch on that, working with Greater Fergus Falls. But we wanted it in here on the front end, and then where you go with that working group. So you talk about that a little bit in your meeting dates, and then we'll talk about when we come back with this.
Yeah, I may actually just turn it over to Scott. He would know as much or more than me because I'm not one of the members.
Sounds good.
But thank you.
So I was appointed to the, or I don't know if you call it appointed, but elected to the Greater Fergus Falls group as a representative of the city council, or Port Authority and the city council. And so we've been working together since January, I think, or February, talking about this, trying to get the council and Greater Fergus Falls kind of on the same page. And that went really well. And now lately, we're discussing this 48,000, how we're going to come about and do it, and what are we going to get back from that from Greater Fergus Falls. And so we come together, and in the last meeting we kind of decided, I don't know what Lance has led. Lance is going to get 4 people from Greater Fergus Falls. We as a tax levy, talked about it, and Laura and I are going to do it, and Scott Kwame and Anthony Hicks. And we're going to meet next Monday at, I believe, 4 o'clock in the Gold Room. And so going into that meeting, Laura did a good job. She sent did you send it to everybody or just to me?
To you and Scott Kwame.
Okay, I didn't see, questions that we're gonna go through and talk about what we can, what this money's for. And we talked about what we should do, and she formed a real nice letter that I could not do. She did a great job. So that'll be part of the discussion. And when we come out of that discussion, Anthony and I talked today a little bit about it too. And when we come out of the discussion, we're gonna try to shoot for 3 goals of what they're gonna have going forward from Greater Fergus Falls, and then we can come back to the council and talk about what that meeting was, and then the Port Authority, in the next meeting we can vote on this budget and see if we want to do this. But we have to get this done before September 16th.
Correct.
And so we can put that big number in there, I guess, and vote on it, and if it goes, but we can take it down if it doesn't. But I think we're going to come out of that meeting very well. I told them we're not going to leave that meeting until we come up with a decision, so. I want to make sure we can get us back. I think that we kind of drifted apart and things have not been, I'd kind of blame on both parts, I guess I'd say. But we got to get working together and get this moving forward, and that's kind of our goal. But the Port Authority's got to vote in that extra $48,000, and I just want to open up for discussion and talk about it, and any questions they want us to put inputs in on it at that meeting, so.
And I'll chime in one thing before you start any discussion on that. My thought was you wouldn't act on this budget tonight, but Clara, if we could have a Port Authority meeting at the September 3rd, that Tuesday meeting, have a quick Port Authority meeting, so you have the working group working on it, you have time to digest this, and then we come back after all of that, and then we could have you act on it then, or even if we needed to on September 16th, prior to the city council meeting,
Do that.
have that.
And I wanted to make sure on the agenda that was discussion only. We're not going to vote on this tonight. Absolutely. There's too much stuff out there yet, so.
The only thing I want to add is when the 4 of you are there meeting with Greater Fergus Falls, you're there as city council members, not Port Authority
Right.
members. So
Okay.
just so the record is clear
Okay.
and the public is aware.
Any questions on the budget? We want to start?
I'll sit down, and if you have other discussion, obviously,
I don't
you
think
can
we-
call me back up too.
So if you got any questions, if you think of something later on, you got all this week to get a hold of me or Laura, and if you got to put in that, we're going to add it. She's got it was a pretty full page of questions. Must have been 15 questions.
Probably.
Yeah, it was really good, and it was all that we talked about, and this is a pretty important deal to Fergus Falls. If we're going to be part of economic development, this is probably the best way for us to do it. We just got to get together and make sure we're all on the same page and we all have the same direction we're going to go. And that's, I believe we'll get into that in that meeting, and we'll come back with a good report. So any questions for anybody else? Hearing that, anything for old business? No old business? Should be adjourned then. Thank you.